Hi folks, Brent Bozell with the Brent Bozell Show. A few years ago, I set up the Parents Television Council in Hollywood. The idea was to have a nonpartisan organization that would fight to restore a sense of decency in programming for children. It was just as simple as that. And that's when I understood just how hard it is to be someone who does not go with the flow of Hollywood. The late, great Steve Allen participated in this, Charlton Heston and others did. But every time, almost every time I wanted to get some Hollywood person behind the scenes, they were all in favor of it. But then they would tell me that their careers couldn't afford it. Even Charlton Heston was one time in an interview very, very loath to criticize Hollywood. And I asked him afterwards, why was it that he was loath to make any criticism of Hollywood? And I'll never forget his answer. He said, "I'm Moses, I'm not God." And that is the state of events. Now, that leads to my introduction of Kevin Sorbo. Kevin is now becoming a legendary force in Hollywood for conservatives. He made his debut playing Hercules in the TV series Hercules. He's just released a new documentary called Hollywood Takeover: China's Control in the Film Industry, and has a movie coming out later this year called The Firing Squad. He's the chair and spokesperson for A World Fit for Kids. He's been blacklisted from Hollywood over his Christian beliefs and conservative opinions. He's married to Sam Sorbo, an actress who was also in the Hercules series and appears in several movies with him. And he's also one of the most prolific influencers in social media today. So I want to start here, Kevin Sorbo. What has been your experience in Hollywood trying to advance Christian beliefs? And where are you now in that industry?
Well, it's kind of interesting because, it used to always be about Hercules or my second series, Andromeda, when people stop me. When I go through hotels or airport lobbies, whatever it may be, I get stopped all the time from people and say, "Hey, we're with you. We know Hollywood's bashing everything you do, but, we love movies like Soul Surfer, God's Not Dead, What If, Let There Be Light, keep making those movies." So there's a big crowd out there that wants these kind of movies. The toughest thing is getting them out there. My manager and agent called me in about a dozen years ago and told me that they couldn't work with me anymore because of the things I was posting on social media. And I said, "Well, I'm posting the truth. What's wrong?" "Well, you're open about being a conservative, you're a Christian, and that's just not going to fly in the industry here." And I just laughed at them because there was never really a problem with it before in terms for me when talking on the set of somebody asked me about who I voted for or whatever. But I laugh at their hypocrisy because Hollywood's the one that screams for tolerance. They scream for freedom of speech, but we all know it's a one-way street with these guys. And so I formed Sorbo Studios, and we continue doing our own movies. I got a lot of other independent people that come to me with their projects. And I think the biggest battle is just raising the money. I do movies in the $3 or $4 million range. That's catering budget in Pirates of the Caribbean. Those are $300 million movies we're competing against with a $100 million advertising budget. So how do you get these things out there? It's got to be word of mouth. And that's what I do through my social media and through other people's social media. And I got to go back a little bit what you just said, because the last 6 or 7 years, every movie I do about 4 movies a year. So I'm still very busy. And I get an actor, I get a director, I get a lighting guy, I get a wardrobe person, doesn't matter. Quietly, they take me to the side of the studio like we're doing a drug deal, and they say, "Hey, thanks for being a voice for us." And I go, "Well, be a voice for yourself. We don't want to get blacklisted like you." And I said, "You know what? I'm not going up for big movies anymore, but I'm still doing movies. I'm still doing movies that Hollywood used to do, movies that have hope and love and redemption and laughter. Hollywood doesn't do that anymore. They want to just put out over sexualization, the anger, divisiveness, hatred, wokeness. It's insane what's going on right now. So I'm fighting my own battle on my own grounds right now."
Mel Gibson was and is a double A-lister, both as an actor and a director.
Sure.
So he came along to Hollywood and he said, "I've got this movie about the Passion of the Christ. And I think it'll do pretty well. And nobody would distribute it for him. $600 million later, the rest is history. Why is it that there haven't been, why wasn't there a rush by Hollywood to listen to that market and throw themselves into that market?
There's 80 million homes at least out there that want that kind of, the movies that Mel does and the movies that I'm doing. Why? Their ideology and the hate, the indoctrination of our I think through our public schools, through the media, through the government. Anytime you see a Christian or a conservative in a movie, they're the bad guys. They're the idiots. They're the evil ones. It's just amazing. It just goes over and over again. And, Hollywood does a very good job of tearing the families apart. You look at sitcoms for the last 50 years, a lot of sitcoms, dad's fat and out of shape, mom's a babe, and the teenage kids just use dad as a pincushion and make fun of him. They're sending that message out to these last generations that father's unimportant. You don't need fathers in your life. Murphy Brown, perfect example. I'm successful. I don't need a man in my life. And, it's unfortunate. And we're tearing families apart. And why they keep doing it is just, it's unbelievable. I did a movie called Let There Be Light that Sean Hannity funded. My wife wrote it. $2.3 million budget. We opened number 2 against Thor Ragnarok, a $300 million movie, okay? Number 2 per screen average. I get a call Monday after opening weekend from Netflix and say, you have a foot in the door here. We want to work with you and start an inspirational division with you. I had 4 meetings with them over 3 months at the Hollywood offices. Ultimately, it was just lip service. And I finally said that last meeting, you guys called me. You guys called me. I don't understand why you don't want to. You're a capitalist business, for one thing. You can scream socialism all you want, but why don't you want to go continue with this and just see what happens out there? But it's weird. They're just beat up. Look, I remember back in 2008 or 9, Tom Selleck said to me, we're at the Emmys. He said, you better slow down on some of the stuff you're saying. I go, but I'm not. What do you mean slow? And he goes, well, they're going to blacklist you. And he was right. He was completely right.
I remember we had a newsletter about Hollywood once. It's fantastic. You'd love this. The American Federation of Television and Radio Artists had a convention, and a reporter called me, and he said, I'm at the convention right now, and you've just been censored by Hollywood. And I said, why? And they said, because of your newsletter that criticizes Hollywood. And they believe that that's McCarthyism. And I said, okay, so does that mean that I've been blacklisted for blacklisting? And even a liberal reporter burst out laughing. And he said, yes, that's exactly what it means. So I asked AFTRA, and somebody at AFTRA signed the petition for me, and I've got it on my wall. But this goes to show you the crazy intolerance. Okay, so you've come out with a new documentary that it's frightening. It's called Hollywood Takeover, China's Control in the Film Industry. Do you want to talk about that for a minute, what you found?
It's incredible. I hope people go to Epic TV and check it out at Epic Times. Please check it out. I've known it for a long time. Hollywood has a total, they're totally in bed with China. They got a 1.5 billion people, it's a huge audience for them. And China dictates the kind of movies that they'll let into their country. And they tell them, you better not be bashed in China. And what we're doing is making China look like they're the best place to live and America is not a great place to live. And they're very effective at it. One of the biggest movies that came out last year was Top Gun Maverick. And they did not like the Taiwan patch on Tom Cruise's flying jacket and stuff. They said, you must take that off, although we won't do it here. Christian Bale talked out about the what's going on over there with all this slavery. And so they ban him now from ever going to the country and will never show one of his movies again. They have so much control over it. I remember a couple of years ago, Ricky Gervais was hosting the Golden Globes. And he always laughs that they keep bringing him back because he's very in everybody's face. And he called Hollywood a bunch of whores. They're all right there. All the A-listers, all the big guys on both sides of the camera. He said, you're all a bunch of whores. If ISIS had a film fund, you'd be the first to line up to get money. And he's not wrong. No. It's not wrong. So it's interesting. We had the premiere of it a few days before the Oscars. I thought that was kind of funny. And I know that was on purpose by Epic, but I think people would really enjoy this, and I hope they check it out.
There's a great similarity between that and what's raging in Washington right now, which is the debate over TikTok. You have got, I can tell you, Kevin, and this is no surprise to you, money is flying everywhere in this town, trying to get access for TikTok, and they're unloading all of their vast resources, fighting the proposition that TikTok is controlled by the communist government in China. The Chinese government, as they're doing in the film industry, understands the power of propaganda. This is what dictatorships do. They go for information first, and they try to influence young people. And 1/3 of young people on TikTok say that they get their news from TikTok now. That's how prominent it is. So the bill that's being put forward in Congress says that TikTok has to divest itself from communist control and or else not participate in the United States. And there's a movement worldwide that's happening there. Do you support that?
Well, we got to do something about it. I've always said the internet's the Wild West. I mean, I think there's some great things about it, but there's a lot of evil in there too. And you look at the amount of kids being influenced not only by TikTok, just by social media as a whole, that they think, oh, I've got all these friends. They're not your friends. They're following you, but they're not your friends. But the attacks on people, the suicide rate among teenagers has skyrocketed since the internet became so popular. And we have to do something. And look at TikTok. They have a completely different TikTok for China. In China, for the Chinese people to see. They can't see any of that stuff. It's only over here where they're doing their indoctrination. And I got to backtrack once again. It really comes down to what's happening in our public schools and through our universities. When Bill Maher comes out last month, because I'm getting some interesting tidbits about him over the things he's been saying over the last couple of years, he said, do not send your kids to American universities. Do not send them.
I find it really curious that TikTok's message in the United States is they're all about free speech. And oh, by the way, the communist government now has the data on 150 million Americans. Sure. But they're all about free speech. Yet in China, it's just the opposite. In their country, you asked, I remember this, Kevin, years ago, where there was a report came out that for 25 years, no one in China knew that man had landed on the moon for 25 years. And two different people have told me in the last month about being in China and talking to young people who had no understanding of the term Tiananmen Square. Knew nothing about what had happened. So that's the suppression of thought in a communist country. Okay, talk to me about your upcoming film. This one is really interesting. It's a faith-based film, but tell me about it. Firing Squad.
It's called The Firing Squad. It's a true story. Indonesia still has the firing squad as a means of the death penalty. And my character is a guy that killed somebody decades earlier. And when he was visiting Indonesia, killed somebody on one of the beaches. He got a life sentence. He got a death sentence. But during that time, he finds God. And so he was very well known to be preaching to the guards, preaching to the inmates, and converting a lot of people to Jesus. He knows his time is coming. And I think he's kind of the Gandalf in the movie. There's a main character in there because he's the really hard-edged criminal that gets there and doesn't want anything to do with me. But my character does wear him down, and just before he's executed, he does find faith. And Tim Che directed, did a great job. I think it doesn't open until August, unfortunately. But we had a screening in Beverly Hills and Warner Brothers lot, actually, which surprised me. Warner Brothers lot let that movie on there. Because it's a good message. It's a good message movie. And it's a true story. I love true stories. And we had about 600 people there standing room only. It was a great crowd that turned out.
Good. Yeah, I was so, it was disheartening to see Jim Caviezel attacked the way he was attacked for the movie he did on the sex trade, the trafficking.
That benefited the movie.
I guess it did, but
here's the thing. They shot Jim. I've known Jim for years. We had the same manager for many years. We were neighbors out in Westlake Village, California for years. And that movie was shot over 5.5 years ago, and they couldn't get it out there.
Yeah.
And then Angel Studios came along, and Angel has a lot of power right now with The Chosen going on. And so they told their followers, donate $5, $10, $100. Well, they raised enough money to get in theaters. Well, it opened up very strongly because that audience from The Chosen. And then Hollywood basically came in and said, we're against this movie. So they were saying, wait a minute, we like having sex with 5-year-old children. We're against this movie. And there's plenty of people in the world on both sides of the political aisle. Let's face the majority people, on whether you're Democrat or Republican, they certainly believe that you shouldn't have sex with a 5-year-old. So that gave it a second boost. It was actually good publicity for them.
Well, I guess it's, yes, the Roman Polanski wing of Hollywood.
Yeah.
But even still, even so, Kevin, attacks like this can be brutal. And I've seen personally, Jim will hide it, you'll hide it, but it can be brutal. The idea of being shunned by your own industry. And it's not a happy place to be, which is why, and I mean this quite seriously. I'm going to lead to a final question here. I mean this quite seriously, that your people in your industry don't get the praise that you deserve for standing up to your beliefs, because it is so easy, and it will advance your career so much if you simply walk away from those beliefs. If you simply put them on a table and say in private conversation, I'm a Christian and all that good stuff, but publicly never say a word about it, it will do so much better for your career, and you'll be invited to all the right parties, and you'll probably get some great drugs in the meantime. But if you stand for something, this is what happens to you. Okay, speaking about standing and leading to something. You, as I said, are a prolific influencer in social media. What is it that is driving you on the political scene today that makes you so outspoken and makes you a target?
Well, it's just incredibly shocking to me that I see a country turning into a socialist country, and most adults and younger under the age of 30 believe communism is a good thing. This is the brainwashing, once again, of our public schools and universities. And I don't understand how people can even look at that. We tear down our statues. We're rewriting history. There's not any country in the world that has only good history. Every country has had bad history in there. But to go after our founding fathers, I think our government today is doing more evil to the country than the British monarchy did, which caused the revolution. I think what they're doing to us now and the restrictions they're putting on, you see the crazy stuff going on in Australia, crazy stuff going on up in Canada above us. I mean, why is this happening in the world that we want to destroy everything and think that socialism and communism is a good thing, when all it does is destroy self-esteem, drive, hope, faith, anything. It's just there's nothing good about it. And yet we have so many people in the media that want to keep pushing it. It's weird to me. I mean, if you bash a Muslim in this country, you're going to get attacked. But you can bash Christians all you want. I'm going, wait a minute. This doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I don't know what's going on, but we got a battle. I drew the line a long time ago. I'm not backing down from it. I believe what made this country great was individuals, not big government. And I'm all for the individual working hard and following the American dream, even though we want to squash the American dream, because people now are being attacked for working 10 years hard before being a success. It's amazing. Look, I'm a 13-year overnight success in Hollywood. So I know what it's like to work hard and put myself out there. But I find it sad they have that kind of anger, because I don't harbor that sort of thing towards people in Hollywood that have an opposite point of view than me. I just don't have that. To me, it's like I'm a live and let live guy. Let's have a civil debate, but that's impossible from these people.
Do you think that Hollywood could ever return to its glory days when it was the envy of the world, when you could rely on Hollywood? Steve Allen told me once, it was a wonderful statement. I asked him, why did people like him in the 50s and the 60s, why did they not have racy television? And his answer was good. He said, we did have racy shows, but we did them in Vegas. But when we were in Hollywood, we understood that we were guests in your living room, and there were children in the living room. And so we had to behave ourselves, and that's what we did. But in behaving themselves, Hollywood could impart such wonderful messages of hope, of aspiration, of love, of success, of American exceptionalism. Do you think Hollywood could ever get back to that?
I would hope so. Look what Disney did. I mean, Disney's lost well over $1 billion last year, because America finally stood up and said, enough of this woke stuff. Enough of it. We don't want to deal with it. I mean, Walt is spinning in his grave what they've done to his name brand. It's like, know your audience. Disney knows who their audience is, and they're going after 1% of the audience. They're going, what is that about? It's like the same thing that Bud Light did on a smaller scale. But still, it's like, do you guys know who your audience is? Do you know who Bud Light drinkers are out there? So they got attacked for what they did. And I'm hopeful. I think there's a tide starting. I think lions are starting to wake up. The sheep are going to be the sheep, but I'm hopeful that things will keep on going the right direction, because I feel there is a shift right now. That's good.
I know I don't need to urge you to keep speaking out, because I know nothing's going to stop you, but I do urge those watching this program to follow Kevin Sorbo and Sam and the work they're doing. Watch Hollywood Takeover, China Control in the film industry. Watch The Firing Squad when it comes out. These are very, very important films.
One more thing.
Yes.
One more thing.
Yes.
Go to sorbostudios.com. sorbostudios.com. That's Sorbo, my last name, Studios as in studios. That is our website for Sam and myself. Follow me on X, Twitter, at KSorbs, KSORBS. Facebook took me down. They took 4 million followers away from me 3 years ago. They've never let me back on.
Good. Everybody has that now. So I encourage everyone to do that. Kevin, thank you so much. Give our best to your bride, and we will see you.
We'll see you in November on the cruise.
Yes. Well, now, tell me this. Ever since people have heard you're coming on the cruise, we've gotten some great feedback where they're looking forward to seeing you. I want you to respond to them.
Well, I can't wait to meet everybody. I mean, it's going to be fun. I love the idea that you guys are putting together here. You got some wonderful speakers coming. I think there's going to be, I think people will have a good time, let alone see a little bit of the, southern off the shore of Florida here. And I'm looking forward to it. I took a cruise last year with my family, took them up to Alaska. We had a blast. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
And this election is, this cruise is on November 10th, and I'm telling everybody that if the election turns out the right way, everybody will be celebrating. If it turns out the wrong way, we'll just keep sailing into the horizon and never come back. Kevin Sorbo, thank you so much for being on the Brent Bozell Show today.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I want to invite you as my guest on a very special, once-in-a-lifetime, 7-day post-election cruise in the Caribbean. It's going to be a blast.